software, well, just an upgrade of one API or one stupid version of a browser can kill your performance test. It has also to do with your complexibility and the security. As I mentioned before, the more security in place, the harder it gets. Especially looking into, if you, as a consultant, you're coming from the outside, you don't know all the systems. You have to ask about the topologies, the network cards, how the security is working. And sometimes management or several layers of management need to give their signature in order to provide that data. When we mentioned that if you do a recording to capture that protocol, well, your tool needs to have that certificate. And it's not a certificate only from the browser, it's a server certificate. And that's the most hard thing to get, because they don't want to give it away that easily. Looking to the hardware, each of those parts can fail. We had a question just during the break, is also what can we test? We can test almost everything. Now, you would say, okay, the database server, well, the database server talks. It talks SQL language to the application server. SQL is also a protocol that can be tested. So we can load test separate items directly by generating load to the application server, to the database server, or to the firewall server, web server, and so on, in order to isolate issues. So if you're looking to the net, the internet can be so complex that it has an influence on your test. Just imagine that you want to have a load test and you're here in Malaysia, but your client is in London. And your application is running an application server in Houston. How are you going to do that to make a realistic load? You have to create a topology of how your environment is actually going to be. And maybe you have to use the cloud to run your load test from Houston, from Singapore, from Malaysia, from London, in order to get those timings. Because those response times and measurements can be different from different locations. So you have to look into that. Okay. Now, sometimes it's impossible to. Sometimes it's impossible to do a load test running on a machine. I would say it wasn't, or it was impossible, but there are several solutions to it. I mentioned earlier about that call center. What we've done, for example, in a protocol that's not been supported, is we use the functional testing tools driven by load testing tools, but using terminal sessions. So each of the user has his separate Windows terminal session, not VMware, but really a terminal session. And from that we can run one user per terminal sessions. And we did this for 250 concurrent users, so meaning we had about 10 boxes running 25 terminal sessions on each of the box. Am I speaking Chinese? Everybody following me? Just wave if it's too technical. You can ni hao. That's the only thing that I can say. Okay. So performance testing is just, well, it can be simple and it can be complex. The purpose of doing it, for example, running to the cloud and using the cloud as a performance generator or injector, or how it's been called. Load testing tools like HP, Performer, Neoload, the more proprietary tools, they have the capability and they say, oh, you want to run from the cloud, you pay about $4 or €4 per instance, per machine, per hour. Or you can have your own electric cloud from Amazon, and there you pay also per instance. The difference between the both of them is, with the proprietary tools, you know it's $4. No matter how many users you run from it, if you do it from your own, you have to pay for the connections and the results to it. Okay. Security, as I mentioned, it is sometimes a real issue. Not only for the certificate, but for recording itself. I just put here Norton. Norton can be very annoying. It's a very good tool, or McAfee, or Kaspersky, or anything, but it prevents your recording tool to hook in to your application on the test, because it says, you want to do something with one of the applications that's already on the system, so I'm not going to allow that. So sometimes you have to disable for a moment that nice internet security thing for being able to record. And it can also be that some recording is stopping because we don't have the rights to it, we're not admin rights, although they tell you that you're having admin rights, and so on. So the security mechanism can really be a blocker, and this is kind of a network topology where I'm asking to my clients, say, hey, give me that, for me to give an overview, or let's say a bird's eye view of what is happening underneath. Another challenge is the user nature. We tend not to do what the application has been designed for, don't we? Testers don't, well, why are you pushing on that button? You shouldn't be doing that. So sometimes we get like gateway timeouts, page cannot be displayed. On the other hand, these are error messages. It's like, you could say, please come again later. Have you seen that kind of message? Oh, the system is currently overloaded. We are so sorry. Please come back at another time. Are the developers getting really clever? Because it's not an error. The server, the web server, is not generating an error. That means tools are not capturing this. Tools are saying, oh, we get a nice 200 OK sideback. So you have to think, and that's more like also for the functional testing people, it's when you see this, this is a problem. So you have to instruct the tool to look at this, and when you see this kind of message, it should raise an error. So a tool is just a tool. It can be as dumb as you want or intelligent as you want, but you have to instruct it. So for us, the user nature is the speed. We mentioned this morning, speed to somebody else can be something slow. I would say my father would walk very slow. He's 97, by the way. So when we work together, I have to pace my speed. Response times. We had like people asking about what to measure. Well, the first thing is a response time. And this comes from the 50s, where they did a test on how a human is reacting on a machine. Internet was not there yet for the public. There was no web server. It was just pure a machine, electronic machine to react. And for that, if you have some timelines, it's 0.1 second. For us, it needs to react, because otherwise you will push the button twice or 3 times. If it's 1 second, your thoughts is already going somewhere somewhere else. When you have like 10 seconds, you're thinking about your holiday, when you get your kids, what grocery you need to get, and so forth and so on. So if you look this into the marketing perspective or the people that are using your application, this is important timings. And sometimes when you talk to your client or they say, yeah, we want to have 7 seconds. Hey, you're critical. Are you really want to do this? We want to have like 1 second. And for us, like in the general, our thumb of rule is about between 2 and 3 seconds max. Otherwise, it's no point. And we have the hourglass running, so it keeps us informing that the system is still performing something. Another thing that we have like a challenge for us is the future. Everything goes so fast, new APIs have been created, web services are there. An update of a web service can kill us too. Let's say here, ambitious goals include harnessing the power of quantum physics, building systems that can't go wrong, and simulating living creatures in every detail. Well, we're almost there, and from my computer science, I believe it is, we're almost there that we're going to have software that's going to test the software for artificial intelligence. So I just want to keep my job in for the next 10 years and then I can go on my pension. But hey guys, you will have a challenge. Also, there's going to develop a supercomputer that is doing parallel processing. Even though, I don't know if people were in my session, the current, if they say the current laptops and PCs, we do parallel processing, that's a hoax. That's not true. It is sequential. It looks like it, but it's still sequential. So we're going to have some fun times in the future. Now, we had a question about resources. Yeah. Resources can be of different kind. We have, of course, people, but we also have like time, the hardware under test, and the hardware to test, because your injector, your software, your license, it has a price tag to it. You have to have access, and I mean now, you're coming from the outside or from the inside. When I'm looking to this small picture, I think next time I will. If you're looking to this kind of topology, when you do your load test, are you going, let's say this is a company, are you doing this from the inside of your company? Or are you doing this from the outside of your company? Yeah? For example, we've done a load test, and there was like, for the load balancer, you can have www and then your web page. But you have www1 or www2, then you go directly to one of the load balancers. That's a trick to bypass some firewall restrictions, and it makes it very easy. For example, if we do a load test, it can be overnight because we do the load test on production systems. Then, for the user going to this, they see a page like, please come back later again, we are on the maintenance. And then we can easily load test backend systems as it should. But those rules needs to be put in place, and then I mean is by access. We have to have access and authority and rights to get to do the load test properly. And the time. Well, it's not the first time that I've done the load test at 4 a.m. in the morning. I think next time I will do this, I will come to Malaysia, at least then it's a little bit later in the day. Another challenge that we see is a developing model. We spoke about agile. Inherent performance testing is agile because we are constantly doing a life cycle, constantly doing the same process over and over. And if you want that information, you could see the proceedings of yesterday. It's in that slides. But of course, it's important about the development module. Because we have to fit it somewhere. In the past we were in back, now we try to be in more at the front. I don't know, have you experienced of being excluded in the beginning of the application life cycle? No? Yeah? So it's also a European, not only a European thing, it's a general thing. So